A už máš prvního speakera?
Ještě ne. Budu shánět teďka. So we are starting in 1 minute, lightning talk section. I would like to ask first speaker to come. So Jakub Kadlčík, welcome. Čau. Jsem Adam. Mluvíš česky, že jo? Jo, takže máme 10 minut, já ti potom ukážu 2 minutky předtím, než to skončí, nějakou cedulku a musíme to učit potom přesně po těch 10 minutách, obsahuje to i otázky a tak, aby tady mohlo jít další. Jo? Takže za chvíličku můžeme začít.
Žádný slidy?
Prosím?
Žádný slidy?
Jo, máš nějaký slidy nebo ne?
Nemám slidy.
Nemáš slidy, ok, tak jo. Alright, so we are starting the lightning talks. So to Jakub Kadlčík.
Thank you. Hello, my name is Jakub Kadlčík, and this talk is on dealing with outdated running applications. First, I want to ask, do some of you used needs restarting or some similar software? No one? Okay. What do I mean by outdated running applications? Let me give an example. You have your computer running, and while using it, you run DNF upgrade or YAM upgrade or something like that. It may install some new versions of libraries or applications that you are just using. Here comes a question. What will happen with those running applications? Nothing. They will continue running in the exact same version as they had before. What consequences comes from that? If the old version didn't have some features, was buggy, had some serious security issues or something, it's still, the running applications still has it. You have to restart them to get the change. There are few ways how you can look on this problem. You can simply don't care. This is the worst option, because eventually your system will be leaky, can get hacked or something. Second way is reboot your computer after every update. It definitely helps, but you don't always have this option, or you simply don't want to do it. So the third way, I think the best, is find out which applications actually needs the restart after the update and restart only them. But the problem here is it's not just that easy to find them. I mean, sure, you you upgrade Firefox, so you need to restart Firefox. But do you know what all libraries that Firefox use? So you will actually need some tool to help you find them. I know only about needs restarting from Fedora, for Fedora, and on other distributions I sometimes see some bubbles saying the kernel was updated, you should reboot your machine or something, but neither is sufficient. So I started working on project called Tracer, which prints you a list of applications affected by upgrade and recommends you to restart them. It's that easy, but it has some cool features that, for instance, needs restarting doesn't have. It divides applications to a few groups. So if it finds applications that you can't restart, like systemd or dbus, or applications which are part of your session, so you can restart them only through login out and in again, Tracer will not bother you with them. It will just let you know that you should do it. Next are applications which are restartable through some command. In that case, Tracer will print you a list of commands that you should run, and you can just copy and paste them to command line, and that's it. Everything remaining, Tracer will print you just a list of the applications, so it's up to you how to restart them. Cool feature is that Tracer will not bother you with things like Chrome Sandbox or plugin container and stuff. It tries to be a bit intelligent, so it recognizes that it's a part of Chromium. So, for example, so the the list of applications you get is short, so it's a good thing. The best feature on the end, there is plugin for DNF which runs Tracer after every transaction. So you have to do only one thing: install the package dnf-plugins-extras-tracer, and that's it. After every upgrade, you will get the list, and your system is fine. Because they want to have core plugins, only few plugins they want there. Thank you, Mirek. Okay, if you want to see some outputs or a user guide or something, please visit homepage at tracer-package.com, and you'll see. I would bring them on slides, but I thought it will be shorter presentation, so I didn't make slides. Yes. Again, please. Thanks. And that's also, if any other questions. Okay, thank you.
Okay, this is just, I've been working with Docker. One of the things you quickly find out, Google, when they've been working with containers for a long time now, has made the decision that using static binaries is the way to go when you're going into a container environment, not working with shared libraries and just upgrading the application every time, say, shared libraries replace or something like that. So the idea is that the beauty of using a static library is you can package it up very, very tight. So you could imagine, you have strace or something like that. You could compile it up into a static binary and then ship it around the environment, run it on any of the hosts, and it just worked. So I was thinking that this is kind of cool, and I've dealt with Prelink in the past, and Prelink is sort of doing a little bit of pre-compilation or taking a bunch of shared libraries and rejigging them to make the application start quicker. So I was thinking that perhaps we could take a full shared library environment and run a tool that would actually take the shared library, read it all in, and repackage it as a static binary. So I've been talking to GCC folks, and we've been going back and forth. I mean, there's some good things and some bad things about doing this. The bad things are that these applications sometimes exec out into running, Python scripts or other types of binary. So there is going to be some breakage if we did this. The other one was plugins like NSS switch. Potential problems with that. But anyways, they're not dead set against it. I don't know if there's any glibc or compiler guys in the room. I'm not a compiler guy. I don't really even understand the technology. It just I see someone that's there's a big push in the container world and Go and language like that to move towards statically shipping executables. So as a distribution, we ship everything with these big, shared library stacks and stuff. So I just thought it might be a nice idea if we had a tool that on demand could take a shared executable and rebuild it into say a static, and then we'd inject it into a container and be able to use it in it. So that's the idea. So I really don't, no slides, nothing. Anybody have any questions, comments? Think I'm nuts? Yes. Well, I mean, the idea here would be you would reship a static, you would upgrade it, recompile it as a static, and then rebuild your container. So containers have a big problem with what he talked about, and that containers actually never upgrade. So when you're upgrading a container, you actually have to destroy the container, get a new image, and recreate the container. Yeah. Right, I'm not saying that this is good. I'm just saying this is the way the world's going. I'm not making an argument between static and shared libraries. I'm just saying the world's going towards this, so there's going to be more and more demand for packages inside of something like Fedora. Oh, can you ship the static version of this because I want to use it in a container? Well, if we could get away from that so that we could just on demand make it a static, Because again, you're swelling. Well, you could copy into libraries. That's sort of like what Rocket's doing. But I mean, in Google world, their containers is the one binary or two or three binaries. It's not huge directory trees of user lib 64, all the stuff that we put into them. Yeah, Langdon?
But if it's on the inside of a container, what difference does it make if it's one file or 6,000 files?
Well, it's the size of the container. It's just the speed of getting it. I mean, the other thing I'm looking for potentially, I'm going to be talking about in the Atomic Talk. Right now, we have in a container environment, you're crossing the mount namespace boundary, and as soon as you cross the mount namespace boundary, you lose your home directory. I mean, you lose your /user.
Aren't all the shared libraries in the container?
They are, but I want the application to exit his namespace and enter the host namespace or enter another container's namespace. So if just imagine I'm running a rel7 strace and I want an strace rel6 system. So if it enters the rel6 system, all of a sudden it loses its user lib 64 glibc.
You also imagine that when you do the static step that it's going to throw out parts of the libraries that are not used?
No, I don't know. You're asking a basic idiot here. I have no clue. Yes.
There's actually another use for it, which is for doing cross-architecture truths with community. So
Right.
you can actually basically build the emulator into a static binary, stick it into the chroot, but then all of the other binaries in that chroot can be architecture.
Yeah. So I mean, there's good reasons for. I mean, Google's not a stupid company, so there are good reasons. We've been trained over the years to worry about upgrades and things like that, and all they say is, the hell with the upgrades. I upgrade the executable and I'm done. So, yes.
But the one thing is, if you're using a shared library and then you're linking it statically, you're throwing away one of the reasons to do static libraries to begin with, because you're no longer only linking what is actually used. Because the shared library contains everything linked together, you will be always linking the whole library. Whereas if you were using an actual static library, you would only use the compilation units that are actually referenced.
Right, but that doesn't. We're not going to suddenly have 4,000. We have 4,000 packages or 15,000 packages inside of Fedora right now. We're not going to go to 15,000 packages and say everybody compile all the executables in all those packages statically, and we're all going to have a dash static, right? So this gives us the opportunity. These might be big, they might be friggin' huge, and again, I think it could be a crazy idea. It's just an idea that I want GCC guys to look at, and I don't know if they can fix that problem or not.
Yeah, this was floating around for a long time.
Yeah.
Whenever you are trying to just take this application and go to another machine, it's not working because the libraries are.
Yeah, the libraries are different, stuff like that. Yeah.
Well, it's just actually a small change in dynamic loader. There should be a way to dynamic loader to
Right.
as usual, map everything, but not start it, but instead of
Right.
dump it.
Dump it to a file, and then I can execute it. Anybody else? Right, but that's, I mean, you're defining what containers are. Well, I don't want to ship anything. I just want to ship a tool that I could build this with. The goal here is not to ship anything statically linked. I agree that shipping statically linked is a bad idea. Yeah. Yeah, but I mean, that's hard to answer. GCC, my point is GCC can answer that, right? It's hard for a general person to figure that out. If I say GCC, compile this thing up to the best of your ability and I can test it then, yeah. Right, yeah. Okay, I think I'm out of time. I hope I'm out of time because I don't want to answer any more questions.
HDMI, yeah, it's right there. You can see it here.
Yep.
And it's also there.
Awesome, thanks. Hello, everybody. Can you hear me? Is this on? Great. So that's me, Gregory Mino. I work on the Ink Tank team with Red Hat, and I work on. Oh, that's the problem. Thanks. I just unplugged.
Computer or the
I think it's Q.
You using Fedora probably work well.
Actually, I was hoping it would work better. There we go.
no.
It's okay. It's only 6 minutes off.
You can also use this thing.
Oh yeah, let's try that. We got some reason.
I think it's on the left.
It is. I just need to taste it.
Don't worry, we have some extra time.
Sorry about it.
And we're back, yeah.
And we're back. All right. Let's try that again. Okay, so that's me. I work for Red Hat. I work on the Ceph team. I work on Calamari. Quick show of hands. Who knows what Ceph is? Hooray! That's awesome. Great to hear. Of those people, do you like Ceph? Oh, that's harsh. Anyways, so what I want to talk to you today about is specifically Calamari, which is a RESTful controller service that controls Ceph. And the idea there is that you want to manage and monitor Ceph. This is not about necessarily being in the data path. It's about being able to see what the clusters are doing, know when things go wrong, and be able to take action to correct them. So let me go ahead and get this started. And so Calamari is open source. It's been open source for about 6 months. When Inktank joined Red Hat, that's what happened. So I work on the storage team naturally. And the timing is terrible, but here we go. So there it is on GitHub. We're about to freeze our 1.3 release. And I'm going to talk to you about the API specifically. I'm not going to dig too far into the architecture of this thing, but it's pretty simple. It's based on Django REST API, and we serve it via Apache. And it's using Salt on the back end as a message bus to talk to the various Ceph nodes. It's a well-documented project. We've got Sphinx docs, we've got lots of docs. Those are the API endpoints we support, which is about 30% of the Rados command set. And we're going to go through a couple specific things. Calamari is a multi-cluster monitoring and administration tool. There you can see it knows about 2 Ceph clusters. It's not a whole lot of detail at this level. You got the name, the FSID, and the last time we've talked to it. We're going to go ahead and look at some specific examples. Here we are drilling down to one instance. We're retrieving it by FSID. Shows similar stuff. Here's the health of that cluster, the various pieces that make it up, things we know about it, and things we're saying about it. So that's basic stuff there. You may know that OSDs are kind of the building block of Ceph. You can think of them as essentially a disk. We give a whole disk to Ceph, and it builds an OSD on top of it, which is a process, and it's basically how Ceph works. There's another type of service, which is a monitor, and that's the one that forms the consensus about which OSD knows the most recent data. And so here again, now we're looking at a detailed view of an OSD and a list view of pools. So the idea here is that we've implemented a REST API around most of the primitives that you use in a Ceph cluster, and we make it easy to control it because there's a rich CLI for Ceph, but it's grown organically over many years, and so as a result, it's not always consistent. You look at it and you kind of have to look at the docs, and you have to look at the many pages of help output. So the goal here is to try and be able to give this over REST in an asynchronous fashion. Anytime we do a modification, like for example, here we're creating a new pool with Ceph, and when it goes right, what it does is it tells us a request ID. Any long-running operation returns immediately, so we can go back and find out, what's happening there. And you can see a couple previous pools that we've created happen successfully, and this one here is waiting for an OSD update so that we can say the pool is actually created. All this is really to try and make it easier to understand how you interact with Ceph and how you get information. And it's built this way so that we can expose this information to other projects that want to use it, make dashboards on top of it, and so on and so forth. So in any cluster, you've got a variety of nodes that comprise it. We collect a lot of data on what they are, what services are running on top of them. You can see here we've got a ton of OSDs, what their status is, what IDs they are, so on and so forth. Here's the one non-JSON endpoint in our API. If you know about the crush map, that's the way that Ceph algorithmically calculates how it places data. And this is a convenience endpoint because when you want to set a crush map, it's text representation, and it compiles down to a binary format, which is a number of commands. So you can post one as text, and we'll do the work of compiling it and setting it for you. So here we are. Calamari also uses Graphite to collect time series data. We collect time series data on the various pieces of Ceph. Mostly we're not exposing OSDs at the moment because the way that it's built, if you collect the OSD stats, it'll quickly overwhelm one node. So from the standpoint if you're deploying Calamari on only one node, we don't really want to collect OSD. So here's the kind of thing that you have to look at if you're trying to use the CLI. You can see that here we've got 2 crush sets, and like a good C function, it depends on the signature of the command for what you're doing, whether you're setting from an input file or you're doing something to an OSD within a crush map. And that's part of the reason that we're going for that. So you might ask, well, why do I care about this? Why can I contribute to it? Any of that sort of stuff. Well, the answer is, in the future with Calamari, what you're going to be able to do is say stuff like, there's some servers here for me, and I want to turn this into a Rados gateway. I want to turn that into an OSD. I want to, be able to look at Ceph deploy from, it's been made by OpenStack, and I want to know some other stuff about it that OpenStack, its tools don't tell me. And I want to be able to get a good snapshot of that all in one place. Do I have any questions? I've got 2 minutes. Anybody? All right. Oh. So, no. Right now, the sole consumer was, we had a dashboard built on top of it while we were part of Inktank, and we're taking that and we're going to be reworking part of that to help integrate with Gluster. So part of the project we're working on now is to take the API and expand it so that it's more storage-based, Ceph and Gluster. It's going to be a similar idea, and it'll probably go up through something like ManageIQ. Any other questions? All right, thank you very much.
No, that convinces my wife that I'm not actually in Tahiti somewhere laying on a beach without her and the children. My name is Nathaniel McCullum. I'm a senior software engineer for Red Hat. I won't talk too much about that. If you want more information about me, you can Google me. Let's give a quick talk about Kerberos. In the past, Kerberos has a very long history. It was invented by MIT, and it is, in fact, a true single sign-on system. That means that not only do you just have the same credentials everywhere, but that once you sign in once, you get to use the same ticket that you've gotten from that authentication on all of your different services. And one of the other great benefits is that Kerberos does not put any of your credentials on the wire, right? So we're not talking about an encrypted channel where you're sending clear text passwords over to some server. The password itself never goes over the wire, which is a great thing, especially it was very innovative in its day. Kerberos also has very wide support. There's many different implementations of it. You see a few of them listed here. It does have some downsides, at least historically. It's very often blocked by firewalls. It has its own port, and so many times you just can't get to it. It also requires some client configuration, which can be a little bit finicky. It also requires, and this is probably one of the biggest killer pieces that has hurt Kerberos deployment in the past, it requires the client to actually have its time synchronized with the server. And this is because the way it avoided transporting the password over the wire was that it would actually encrypt a timestamp, and so both sides have to have the same time. One last drawback is that it also would only allow you to have one client principal. And this meant that you could only ever have one user account, ever. So I don't know, how many of you only have one user account? Yeah, that's nobody, right? So we actually have a much better situation in the present. We have KDC Discovery, which allows us to avoid a lot of the manual setup for doing Kerberos. So we don't have this, a lot of times, long setup process for the client. The client can just discover where the KDC is and be off to the races. We also have some client time offsets. So this alleviates the problem of clock synchronization, although your clock still has to be kind of close. We also have the advent of multiple credential caches, which allows you to use multiple principals on a client system. We've also invented some, this is now very recent stuff. We have HTTPS proxy. This is a little tool called KDC proxy. It's a small Python script, about 300 lines, and it just forwards Kerberos packets over HTTPS. So you can stick this on the edge of your infrastructure, and you can actually talk to your Kerberos server over HTTPS. And this avoids the firewall problem. We've also recently implemented one-time password support in Kerberos. This allows you to use those handy key fobs or your soft tokens, and so now you can actually have 2 credentials with Kerberos. This is implemented upstream. You can see the link there. This also has fantastic out-of-the-box support in free IPA, so if you're looking for a good OTP solution, please try that. And if you're looking for something on the client side, we have a great app called Free OTP, which is available in your mobile app store. Sorry, Windows. We do have some stuff coming up in the future as well. There's a new standard that's about to be finalized called CAMAC, which allows for signing in various different modes. And this will allow us to create a feature called authentication indicators, which is a set of strings that assert something about the authentication that has actually happened. This can be used to set policy, and we can do this on a per service level in the KDC, where if you say, I want to access that service, we can say, well, based on your authentication, you're not allowed. Sorry, and we won't issue you a ticket at all. But then this can also be transferred all the way to the service level, so you can do granular policy based upon the actual resource that you're trying to access. So you could, for instance, allow a user to have a one-factor authentication for most resources, but for something that is very secure, you could require multi-factor authentication. We also are going to be standardizing HTTPS proxy discovery, and this will be done using the new URI DNS record type. So all of that auto-discovery goodness that exists for Kerberos right now will also hopefully exist very soon for the HTTPS proxy. So you could just automatically discover it and go to town without any client configuration. We are also in the process of implementing password authenticated key exchange, and you can see the URL for that. There's real code there. Please do not run it in your environment. It is definitely insecure, and it will make you lose your job. So please do not run it. But you're welcome to please look at it, and please review it, and let me know if you see any problems. This uses strong modern cryptography, including elliptic curves. Just like the old Kerberos, puts no password on the wire, but it also prevents against offline dictionary attacks. And this is because we're no longer encrypting some known data, but we're actually doing an algorithmic key exchange. This means also that we have no need for third-party trust when establishing encrypted channels. So we don't need to validate some cert against a third party. We can just simply do the key exchange and then encrypt whatever sensitive data we need for the Kerberos transaction within the resulting key of that exchange. And only the KDC that actually knows that password will be able to read that. So we can use this then for multi-factor authentication, where we can have the multiple factors. The first factor, the password usually, can be used as part of the key exchange to create the secure channel, and then all subsequent authentication can happen simultaneously within an encrypted channel using that first factor. We would also really like to have some improved browser support. Right now, the browser support is pretty bad, but I don't know browsers very well. I don't know the internal code, so if you are a browser guy, I would very much like to talk to you. Please come talk to me. So let's return and look at the past, the present, and the future. You can see all of our things here color-coded. You notice that on the bottom, the downsides, we've eliminated them. Most of these are completely gone already, although we do have some further work to do regarding the configless clients and time synchronization. And then we have also introduced, of course, one-time password support and have increased the security properties of Kerberos overall. That's all I have. Do you have any questions? That's a good question. JBoss, I don't know. With Apache, it's fairly easy. You just throw up modauth GSS API. Does anybody know with JBoss? I'm not a JBoss guy. I apologize. For most things, it probably shouldn't matter because most of the innovative work is going into the AS request, which is where you get your initial ticket. And hopefully, the library will just be able to support the modern TGS request, which is where you get the ticket itself. So hopefully, just using the native JBoss support should work. Any other questions? Thank you very much.
All right. Give me the presentation on a stick, right?
RPM 1. This one.
This one?
Yeah.
All right.
So the yearly update on what's happening with RPM. The mic? Where do I switch it forward? Here? So that's the update on RPM. So what has happening the last year? There are a lot of changes in the team. Luboš has joined. Stand up and wave to the crowd. Unfortunately, Panu has left us and moved on to the kernel network team because there's only so much sanity you can lose while developing RPM, and at some point you need to move on. So I've basically promoted in the trenches to take over the project. So that's how it's happening. So what have we actually done? We have released RPM 4.12 in October. It's already in Fedora. Main things is we added support for the weak dependencies, finally. We added support for files with more than 4 gigs. That sounds like a simple feature. It actually meant to rewrite a lot of code because it was so messed up that we couldn't even change it to do anything. One result of this is we have a new utility, RPM to archive, which can turn an RPM into a tarball for now. Maybe I will add some more formats if there's demand, but right now it's not used that much. The reason for this is the new format for more than 4 gigabytes does no longer use standard CPIO because it's. I talked to the CPIO guys and they said, "Aren't you the last one using this format? Go away." And so we did. So it's actually so most RPMs are still CPIO. So CPIO to RPM to CPIO still works for most packages except those that need bigger files. No, it's basically just the content. I consider maybe adding the scriptlets at some point to also flush them out. But so if infrastructure needs something here, please tell me. As long as no one uses it, I will not put more work in. So then we moved to the software collections, which was kind of trying to. I think the Linux guys needed this. I don't know. We removed them, and we did a lot of minor stuff. A lot of clean insights. So if you're using the API, also basically from the 4 gigabyte support, we have a new data type for files, for the file data basically, and the archive. So now finally you can from the API access the payload content of the package if you need to and don't have to fiddle yourself and try to find the bits. We also did a lot of optimization. Luboš started with this basically, and for the release engineering guys to not write the files like 3 times to the disk, and we are all hoping that the composers and builds go faster now. So short description of what's this? I'm confused. The weak dependencies. We had a workshop actually this afternoon. So that's what they are doing. They are basically based on the Debian style or SUSE style for a while. So there are basically 4 new types of dependencies which mirror the requirements. So there's basically 2 levels of weak dependencies, which are the first level are supposed to be packages that are installed but may be missing. So if you exclude them or remove them, and there's a lower level for hints, which can be used for picking packages more intelligently. So you can, by, for example, pick send mail over postfix or something like this. They're already there, and we are trying to get it in Fedora, but it's a story which is too long for 10 minutes. So there are a couple of features we plan for the next release. One is is working on, which is file triggers, which is basically scriptlets that can be executed on a path on path names. I have a slide for this in a few minutes. Then we will extend the dependency syntax. We will allow conflicting subpackage, is something the base working group has requested. So right now, as you only have one build root or install root, you cannot put 2 versions of the same file in there, which is annoying if you want to ship multiple config files and stuff like this. So that's basically already done. So you will be able to rename the files while packaging them. So you will be able to put multiple files side by side and package them in different subpackages. So you can choose the configuration you like by installing the subpackage without actually splitting up the package in multiple source packages, which is pretty annoying, especially given the way Fedora handles them. Is there time? How many time do I have? Yeah, that's enough. Yeah, and we will finally ship Python docs strings for the Python bindings. Maybe someone is actually using it. I'm actually surprised that there are that many people using it. I'm shocked. What? How have your life been so far? Yeah, it doesn't matter. Yum didn't understand the bindings either. So some short notes on the file triggers. I think it's going to be a pretty huge thing, as it can replace most of the scriptlets. As you basically, instead of putting a scriptlet in every package that contains a file, you can basically just do it once and have it executed all over the place. There's one issue we're still discussing, which is, do we need some way of controlling the order they are executed? But we will figure that out. But it's something we'll get into the next release, and will probably trigger a lot of other changes in the package space. So I hope we can get rid of most of the scriptlets. And the next big thing we are working on is getting to Boolean expressions for the dependency, so you can actually express more complicated relations between packages, mainly bridging packages like language packs, and there are a couple of use cases which I probably won't go into today. The most easy is basically an OR, where you can choose from multiple packages, something a lot of people have requested. So you can specify multiple packages fulfilling their dependencies. Okay, that's it. That's where we're up to. How many seconds for question? 2 minutes. That's luxury. That's on the files themselves. We actually fixed the limitation of the package size a couple of years ago, and the last thing that was limited was the size of the files within the package. And CPIO is just a 32-bit thing, and they didn't want to do a 64-bit version of the format. Yeah, of course. It's now a 64-bit integer, so you may run out of space soon.
Who was actually using files that large that is larger than 4 gig?
The thing is, now with all those pesky container guys, they try to package huge whole machines, and there are also a couple of, I don't know, enterprise customers who want to package huge data sets and stuff like this. So it's not that common, but if you cannot package it, it's pretty annoying. Yeah. There's, to answer your question, there's nothing that helps against bad packaging except brute force. Yeah.
Basically, we know how to fix it. We know we want, or the people should split some packages, but it's additional work. How we gonna community can organize this without, pushing yet another work on maintaining of every package?
You can't. Life is bad. You have to do the work. You can't. Life is bad and you have to do the work. There's no way around it.
Hi. Do you have VGA or?
Yes, VGA.
Great. You can see it here as well.
Hello, everyone. I'm Fraser. I've come all the way from Australia, and it's very cold here. I work at Red Hat on the dog tag public key infrastructure and free IPA. So I'm going to talk about the Let's Encrypt initiative. But first, who in the audience has ever deployed TLS on a web server, including provisioning the certificate? Yeah, so quite a few. Who enjoyed the process? One person enjoyed the process. You might need to seek help. So for those who don't know, the process for a domain validation certificate goes something like this. You pay money to a certificate authority. There are some free ones, but not many. You have to prove control of the domain. Typically, this is an ad hoc process, so some of them send you an email with a link in it, which sounds so secure. Some of them, excuse me, some of them instruct you to provision a DNS record. Some of them instruct you to provision a particular HTTP resource, which they can then use to validate your control of the domain. Then, having proven control of the domain, you have to actually request a certificate, and this process varies from certificate authority to certificate authority, or CA. And finally, once you have the certificate, you have to tell your HTTP server about it, so Apache or Nginx. You have to make sure that the TLS settings are secure, that you're not using broken protocols. So there's a lot of ways that this process gives you room for error. So, Let's Encrypt. What is Let's Encrypt? It's an initiative to encrypt the whole web, and it's being driven by the Electronic Frontier Foundation, Mozilla, Akamai, which is a CDN, Cisco, and Identrust, which is a certificate authority. So the goal of this initiative is to provide a free certificate authority that anyone can use, and the heart of this initiative is the ACME protocol. So ACME stands for Automated Certificate Management Environment. ACME is used to automate domain validation, as well as the certificate request process, and there's also provisions for renewal and revocation of certificates. And it's also designed so that the client, having automated all of this, can also go and install the certificate in your HTTP server, and hopefully with a secure set of default settings. So some of the domain validation challenges that are issued by an ACME CA include provisioning an HTTPS resource with a well-known token and serving that with a self-signed certificate bearing the public key that you will use to request the eventual certificate signed by the ACME CA. And there's a question. Okay, yeah, I'll get to that. Yeah, sure. I'll get to that towards the end. You can also respond to a SNI challenge. So rather than provisioning an HTTP resource on this server, you can just respond to a TLS handshake request with a particular server name indication. And again, you'll respond with a self-signed certificate, including the public key that you will then use to request the certificate. There's also a DNS challenge. So some of these challenges are similar to what CAs would ask you to do today, but you don't have to do them. It's an automated process. And for renewal, there's also a proof of possession challenge to say, yes, I still hold the public key that I was using before. So, demo time. Let's encrypt. Okay, so I will run a demo server here using the Node ACME repository. And then over on the client, I'm just going to put down the mic for a moment. Okay, so I should first show a web server here being served over HTTP, so no TLS. Hello, Bruno. And now if we hit HTTPS, you can see the port's open, but it's actually not talking TLS, and there's no certificate configured on the server. So, sorry. Okay, so we run the Let's Encrypt client, we agree to the terms and conditions, and then it just goes. It's doing a DVSNI challenge, so it's responding over a TLS handshake with the self-signed certificate, and congratulations, you've successfully enabled HTTPS DevConf.ipa.local. It also gives you an option as to whether to then have a permanent redirect from the HTTP resource to HTTPS. So we'll just turn that on, and that's done. So now we can just refresh this, and you can see it's being served over HTTPS. So the Let's Encrypt client has contacted the Acme server that I'm running on my machine, performed some steps in response to a domain validation challenge. That challenge has been successfully answered. It's requested the certificate and then reconfigured Apache to use that certificate for this particular server name. Yeah, sure. No. I want the padlock. So more information. This is just using the demo CA that I've set up, but there is a public. Sorry, it's all much too embiggened. So you can see the Acme demo CA, which I'm running, and then assigned DevConf.ipa.local. Yeah, I'm running a CA locally here. Yep. That's correct. Yep. Okay, so the status, it's under heavy development. The protocol is still evolving. There's an Nginx configurator in the works as well for the client. So this was with Apache, but hopefully Nginx will come along quickly. And they're aiming for a mid-2015 launch, so in about 5 months or so. For the future, there might be more domain challenges, so DNSSEC possibly. Possibly other applications, so maybe you could use it for SMIME and email. You can prove that you control the email address, and then it can get a certificate for SMIME. If SMIME is your thing, it's not really my thing, but some people like it. Hopefully it won't just be the one CA, but other CAs will pick it up, and we'll definitely look at implementing Acme in the dog tag CA and free IPA if the use cases are there for it. And also, are there any OpenShift developers here? So if you run a PAS, you could use Acme to just go and get certificates for any domains that you're hosting as soon as the DNS is set up. So it could be a convenient way to set up HTTPS for customers of platform as a service solutions, and just, yeah, they don't have to intervene at all. You can just go and do it for them as soon as the DNS is pointing at the PAS host. So IDEN Trust, so it's going to be a subordinate of the IDEN Trust, which is one of the partners pushing this initiative. You can get involved, so let'sencrypt.org is the website. Code's on GitHub, IRC, and a bunch of mailing lists. And I think I'm out of time. Am I? More questions? More time? Yes, very quickly. The Let's Encrypt client, I'm not too sure. So it's a Let's Encrypt demo client, I think is the repo name. When I ran it a few weeks ago, the official word was we support this on Debian, and apparently it worked on Ubuntu. But yeah, I expect that they will be working hard to make sure it runs on all of the common distributions. Oh yeah, sure. So that was one brief point I wanted to make, is that if you had a sufficiently powerful and privileged Let's Encrypt or Acme client, then it could go and configure Dane records for certificates that have been provisioned. Apart from that, I don't see a whole lot of alignment. They appear to be largely addressing different use cases. Okay, thank you.
For the setup, so no problem. Yeah. You can also see, yeah. Yeah, I think it works.
It takes a while.
Yeah, I think I see a window here, so I think it works.
So I'm presenting a new cross-distribution installer, and I'm the packager of this installer, which is called Calamares for Fedora. And so I will present it from a Fedora point of view. So first of all, if you don't know me yet, I've been a Fedora packager since 2007, especially on KDE packages. And I'm a student of mathematics, a PhD student, and Dark Opt Optimization Technologies GmbH is my current employer. But so now let's get to Calamares. So the website is this, calamares.io, and it's a distribution-independent installer framework. The initial idea came in May 2014 because its team observed that there was plenty of competition rather than cooperation between all the different installers, and many of the installers were bad, especially the smaller distros had bad or no working installers, and all the installers are more or less distro-specific. So instead, when they decided that they want to have an upstream project satisfying all the common requirements between the distributions, so that distributions could all use this upstream project. And so they started a new installer from scratch in June 2014. It's a highly modular design, and it's written in C++ using Qt 5, and some modules are written in Python 3, and they use Boost Python to bind it. And yeah, it was initially developed by Blue Systems, but there are contributions, and initially their contributions came from those 4 distributions: Chaos, Manjaro, Maui, and Netrunner. But now they also get contributions from Fedora. From me, from BQ, Linux, OpenMandriva, and from the KDE Visual Design Group. And recently, I think last week, they announced their release 1.0, which is already in updates testing for Fedora 21, and it's not yet it's not yet perfect. It's still a modest release, but it's already feature complete, more or less. So what are the features that it can do? It can install currently only from live images, so it can replace the Anaconda live inst. It cannot yet do installs from packages. So if I want to actually build a live image, I still have to use the live CD tools or live media tools which are based on Anaconda to actually build them. But I can install live images with Calamares. And the design is completely modular. They have 3 plugin interfaces, C++ and Python, and you can also invoke generic process. But the current plugins are all written in C++ or Python. They have a threaded job executor with C++ and Python APIs, and there are already over 25 modules available, where a module is either a view step, which is like the spokes in Anaconda. It's 1 or more pages in the wizard. It uses a wizard interface, or a module can also be a batch job. And there are modules for other common tasks when installing from live images, like setting up grub or doing partitioning and user management and so on. And one can also deploy custom modules very easily. There is a branding mechanism so you don't have to patch anything to rebrand it. Just change some config files. And there is an advanced partitioning tool. It's based on the KDE Partition Manager, which has resize functionality and supports the 2 common types of partition tables. Now to the Fedora package. I maintain Calamares in Fedora 21 and Rawhide. It's not possible to support it in Fedora 20 because Boost Python is too old there. And and it's easy to test it. You can just yum install Calamares on any of our live images. Okay. And the menu entry is shown by default. And the way we get rid of the menu entry after installation is that the package just removes itself from the installed system. And the default configuration in user share is patched to just work on Fedora. So in etc you can add some other configuration for your own custom spin or remix. And what's also nice for Fedora remixes is that we automatically pick up the branding of the remix from its OS release and from the known icon names in your logos package. And there's the slideshow just mentions Calamares. So you don't have to set up any branding specifically for the installer. You just add Calamares on your Spin Kickstart, and if you have the branding for your remix set up, it will automatically pick it up. But you can also replace the branding if you wish. And there is a Calamares devel package, so you can actually build custom modules outside of the Calamares tree. And there is also a remix where Calamares is already in use. This is I called it Cannolo after a Sicilian sweet. This is a funny ISA link because there is also a Sicilian sweet that's called the Torta Fedora. And anyway, it's a pure KDE Fedora remix. There's no GTK stuff on it. It's not released yet. I have only the Kickstart in the SVN. And it has a basically complete KDE Plasma desktop. It's installable with Calamares. And I also replaced the firewall D with a firewall that has a KDE front end, which comes from Ubuntu. It's an uncomplicated firewall. And yeah, I removed abort and SE Linux because there is no GUI for this stuff, and that doesn't require GTK Plus. And if I were shipping it, you wouldn't be able to troubleshoot anything that gets caught by them. So I figured that. So that's the technical reason why I don't ship SE Linux on this. Okay. Yeah. Okay. So and yeah. So this is how it looks. The live demo. And yeah, here, so I'm just going to stick to the default. The keyboard layout is because I've already set it up outside of the installer, and it picks it up. Yeah, the screen is messed up, the background, because it was minimized. Yeah, so I'm not going to show the details of the partitioning. I'm just going to use the automatic one. Yeah, and so this is, I mean, we don't have to run it through. This is let it run to the end. This is a VM, but in the end, this is how it works. And so I hope that it will be able to replace the live inst from Anaconda, at least on the KDE spin at some point, because it's a Qt-based installer and not a GTK one. And I also think it's nice to cooperate with an upstream project, and so maybe in the end we can stop reinventing the wheel entirely and just drop live inst from Anaconda altogether and use this, or even drop Anaconda altogether if Calamares gets support for installing from packages. Not yet. It's planned, but it's not supported yet. I think LVM is not supported yet either. It just supports the basic partitioning stuff. This is the first 1.0 version. It doesn't do everything Anaconda does yet. What, to unify what? Yeah, well, it would be if they add the Kickstart support or support for something similar, then it will of course work with all the distributions that use Calamares. Whether they will use Kickstarts which are compatible with Anaconda or something, I guess rather not, because it exposes so much of the internals. But whenever you use Calamares, it will work more or less independently of the distribution. Of course, it will depend on what modules the distribution enables, because this is very customizable, but the format will be the same. Okay, so time's up.
So that was the last talk. Thank everyone for coming here. Thank everyone for contributing, and see you tomorrow or maybe on the party evening. Thank you. Co? Party, ne? Tomorrow. Tak ať nevypadám jak ožrala, tak nejdřív tomorrow a pak party, ne?
So I don't know how accessible Anaconda is. But of course, I know it's also not a good excuse to say the others aren't doing any better either. So I think it should not be a problem from an accessibility standpoint. And if it is, then we should fix Qt and not use it. Because I mean, I think Qt is a much nicer toolkit to work with than GTK. I hate GTK. I've done some coding with GTK, and I don't like it.
I'm aware that Qt is better by most opinions, but the accessibility.
Yeah,
maybe people are talking about for many years. I can remember 10 years ago they thought it's